Welcome to the next episode of Brandland. I'm your host, Garrett Justice, and I'm joined by a very special guest today. I have with me Aaron Brown from Destiny Rescue. Aaron, how's it going?
Outstanding. The sun is shining here in Columbus, Ohio, and grateful for just to be breathing. Grateful to be on your program. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share today.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron. It's great to hear that positivity, and we're really excited to have you here today. I think that you bring a unique perspective to our show. I think you're the first guest from a nonprofit background. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic today about branding and marketing, especially in the nonprofit space. But before we do that, would you mind giving our listeners just a little bit more of a background and history of you and your career, as well as Destiny Rescue and the awesome stuff that you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in the great state of Indiana, so I'm a Hoosier at heart. My tiny little town that I grew up in is famous for the movie Hoosiers. So if you've seen maybe the most iconic sports movie ever, I grew up, the gymnasium that was the Hickory Husker Gymnasium is my old high school gymnasium. I grew up a block from there and grew up playing all of my youth basketball games there. And I was actually an extra in the movie.
Were you really?
I was in the 5th grade when that was filmed, and we were still going to school in the school building that was attached to the gym. And so after school, we would get in line to get our hair cut. So we looked like the 50s. We wore our bell bottoms and our denim and flannel, and we got a chance to sit up in the stands for some of the basketball game action. So anyway, born and raised in Indiana. Spent 14 years of my professional career out of college with Coca-Cola. So variety of roles there before I just had a calling that I wanted to make a difference with my life. Selling flavored sugar water just wasn't enough for me in the impact that I wanted to make in the world. And so I left the corporate world and started a path down nonprofit management, leadership, and which led me to Destiny Rescue. I've been with Destiny Rescue for almost 4 years. And simply Destiny Rescue, we rescue children from sexual exploitation and sex trafficking. We have a team of undercover agents that go into brothels, bars around the world, searching for kids who are being sold and abused. And once we identify them, we put a plan in place to rescue them, whether that's independently on a relational rescue or working, with trusted law enforcement or anti-trafficking police. And so again, once we rescue them, our goal is to help them stay free. How can we eliminate the vulnerabilities that led them to be trafficked in the first place so that they can thrive in freedom? And really, as an organization, it's our mission to empower the everyday person to become a rescuer of kids. It's that easy. Every person, anyone who's listening to this, everybody can rescue kids who are being sold and abused. You don't have to go undercover. You don't have to go into these terrible places. You can actually do it right from your home. And that's really our goal as an organization.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, such a wonderful mission, and, very admirable, looking at your career, successful career at Coca-Cola and wanting to make a difference. And, I so admire people that make that shift. And one of the things I love most about nonprofits is there's this whole other element, which is, mission, and how important that mission is, which is top priority, which is why those nonprofits are started. And, and transitioning into our topic a little bit today, I think that mission ties in really well with, branding and building a strong brand when it's aligned behind that mission. And I know that you've had the experience doing that, in the past with Coca-Cola, but also now at a nonprofit where you have some different challenges. I know that Destiny's Rescue is, like you mentioned, an international organization. And so talk to me about the importance of branding and also consistency across any branding or marketing materials you create when working as an international nonprofit?
Yeah, our brand is critical because it's all about trust, right? As a nonprofit, we have to earn trust. Everything happens at the speed of trust. And so in order for us to gain trust, we need people to know about us. And if we want people to know about us, then we've got to create awareness, and we need to be able to be remembered, right? So that when they hear about child sex trafficking or human trafficking, that they remember that I've heard of Destiny Rescue. They're fighting this issue. It's all about trust. And so, in order to earn trust, you have to be known. And in order to be known, people have to be aware that we exist as an organization, and we want them to remember us, right? Because that recognition is super important. And so if we want all of those things to happen in order to earn the trust that we need, we have to show up in a consistent way. Our team in Australia can't talk about our work one way, and our team in New Zealand talk about it in a different way, and the team in the US talk about it in another way, because it breeds, that inconsistency potentially breeds doubt, and that doubt obviously leads to lack of trust. And so it plays a critical part for us as an organization to be transparent, to be authentic, in an effort to create trust. And that's why the consistency is important. And because we work across 11 countries around the world, it breeds lots of challenges for us from an international marketing team standpoint of how do we actually accomplish that.
Yeah. And I want to dive into that in a minute, but just on that last point, I was just hoping that you were going to mention trust there, because I think that that's so key and that's so crucial in building any brand. Really what building a strong brand is about helping people know who you are and develop that trust for you, whether you're a nonprofit or you're a for-profit or you're an individual. So I love that you mentioned that. And I think that that's crucial. I think a lot of times when people think about branding who don't think about it often, right? They don't really realize that that's really what it's about. It's helping understand who you are as a company at your core and building that trust. So I love that comment.
Yeah, it's identity, right? We want to have this identity and this integrity about our brand, that people know that we're going about our work the right way. And we're transparent in how we share. We don't over-sensationalize, because this is a topic that I see a lot of over-sensationalization happening in marketing, where the visuals that sometimes are created are to manipulate a donor or giver versus to inspire them in the hope-filled side of this. And so anyway, for us, it's all about trust. And you and I both know it takes a long time to build it. Yeah. And it can take seconds to lose it, which leads into this idea of challenges. It's why it's so important for us to figure out how to build our brand and then to help our teams function within that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So talk to me about some of those unique challenges when it comes to managing a brand and marketing across more than 11 different countries. How do you really approach that? Yeah,
I think the first challenge that we've encountered is this idea of just having capacity. We're a toddler in regards to being an organization, right? Like, I feel like just over the last few years, we moved from being an infant as an organization to we're walking and talking and we're stumbling around a bit now, but we're in massive growth mode. And our goal is to have every dollar possible as an organization go to rescuing kids and helping them stay free, not building big teams of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have this big goal of unifying your brand and your marketing message, and let's get everybody around the world in 11 countries, 250 plus members, getting everybody internally on the same page, mm-hmm. so that we can talk externally consistently, mm-hmm. isn't easy when you don't have a lot of people. And so we've had to really get creative in how we build capacity with staffing, with volunteers, which allow us to really get the work done. And the second part is lack of culture. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, as an organization, we've grown organically. We're in Australia, and we were founded in Australia. Well, we then decided to open office in the US, and then we opened an office in New Zealand. Those are the three countries in which we actively do. Our goal is to raise awareness, funds, and talent in those three countries right now, right? So how can we raise awareness of this issue? How can we invite people into the fight? And how can we raise money to rescue in the other 8 countries in which we work, where somebody needs to be standing up and fighting for these kids? Mm-hmm. And so as each of these organizations opened, or our offices opened, they all functioned as their own entity. Hmm. So Australia just starts running down a path, and, oh, we need this. And so we're going to start using this platform. And, oh, we want to tell stories this way, and we want to do that. And so when I stepped into the role, that was the big challenge that we had, is there weren't processes. There was no culture around who we are. Mm-hmm. There's no culture around our messaging, our identity. And so what we've been working towards, and we're not there yet, mm-hmm. we have a long way to go. But what we're working towards is this culture. It's almost like a democracy, where as the international leader, my goal is to empower our nations to run within the fence of our brand and our marketing. Mm-hmm. But there is a fence, right? So we want to have free range employees. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but mm-hmm. we want them to be able to roam freely, but there needs to be a fence that keeps them from straying too far from home.
Yeah.
And it's trying to create this culture where we're not in control internationally. As the international marketing director, I don't want to be in control. What I want is, I want to nurture, and I want to guide, and I want to empower. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, if our teams are building and going their own direction, they're bound to be more passionate, be more committed, versus one guy or one team of people pushing everything completely out.
Yeah.
So that's been a big challenge for us, because we have lots of volunteers. A lot of our team on the ground in our 8 project nations where we do the rescuing, these are people who've given up their lives, moved to the other side of the world to become a rescue agent, mm-hmm. by raising their own financial support.
Yeah.
So we have this large team of volunteers and staff members and lots of voices. How do we bring all those voices together so that it's simple, it's clear, it's concise, it's consistent? Mm-hmm. And that is a big challenge when you're dealing with 11 countries, different cultures, different language, time zone challenges, lots of things in regards to just collaboration. It's not easy.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. 2 things that I really, really like about what you said is, so often people forget that brand starts with culture. Brand is really about who you really are as an organization at your core. It's the collective aggregate personality of the people on your team, especially when you're a small team, right? And so I love that you're realizing that. And then the second piece that I really love is as you start having these different countries and different offices, right? How can you have that unified culture be the core, but allow the people who are there who know their markets that they serve even better than you probably do,
Yes.
add their own spin to it, add their own flavor to that. And in effect, I think what's so great and so it's so unique about that is lots of legacy marketing teams approach this as, hey, we're the central marketing team, we're the experts on the brand, and they police it, right? And they think that they're the best ones to create everything. They might be the experts on the brand, but they're not necessarily the experts on the markets which people across the company serve. And so when you can bring those two
Absolutely.
things together, that's where the magic starts to happen.
It couldn't have been said any better. I don't know our markets better than our frontline team members around the world.
Yeah.
They know the audiences better than I do. I have lots of opinions, but oftentimes my opinions aren't accurate. And so for me, what we've tried to do as an organization is really start to build the characteristics, of our brand identity, of, hey, we're people focused, meaning we're honoring, as an organization, we're honoring when we talk about people. You won't see us even talking negatively about traffickers. Because what do I really need to put out a marketing piece talking about how evil these people are? We all know it's evil and they're terrible people. But here's the thing. Something in their life led them to a place of desperation, greed, lust. Something led them to a place that put them where I'm going to start trafficking and selling kids. I don't think they woke up one day and said, I think I'll start selling kids for sex today. And so what we've tried to do is let's get away from the name calling and casting this real negative light. We want justice. I don't want anyone to be confused. We want justice brought against people because they need to pay for what they're doing. But as an organization, we don't need to build that. And so what we did is we started building these characteristics. We're people focused and honoring. We want to be trustworthy. We want to be hope filled. So I could break your heart right now by going deep in the darkness of what I've seen personally in undercover work, what our team, the stories that we have. And we have to tell that side of our story. Our goal, though, is to spend the majority of our time in the hope-filled side, that hope does exist after rescue. And because if I constantly live in the darkness, I'm going to demotivate my audience because it's too big of a problem and I can't really do something, versus look at this beautiful story. This is where she was. This is where she is today. And it was done because of people like you. You can help rescue the next one. And so by building these voice characteristics and some of this brand identity, what it's allowed our teams to do is to start to say, okay, I know my audience, but here are the pieces that I need to make sure lose as we construct that message specifically for my audience. And that's helping our team stay within our brand and stay within who we want to be, but it's allowing them to kind of mold and form the messaging that really meets their audience.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, so I guess to kind of summarize what I'm hearing you say is so much of the role of building a strong brand, especially when you are international or have multiple locations and start to grow, is about identifying the culture and who you are as at your core, and sharing that shared vocabulary with everyone across the organization so they can understand it, internalize it, and then use that as guardrails as they create the things that they need. Is that right?
That is it. Again, it's empowering them by giving them the tools and the guardrails or the fence that I get to play in this space. And it's worked for us. Last year, we rescued a record number of individuals, 1,426 individuals rescued just last year. And we just continue to see growth, and it's because we're successful in inviting people in, because we're transparent, and really we want to make our donors and our supporters a part of our brand.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit more about that. I mean, what role does your branding have on, helping with donors and supporters, which is such a big part of any nonprofit, right?
Yeah, we want to be a you brand and not a me brand. I see lots of nonprofits, and again, we still have moments where we fail in this because it's old habit. But I see a lot of nonprofits that say, help us rescue kids, join us, do and whatever, instead of saying you can rescue kids. You made this happen. I'm a fan of Donald Miller and kind of the story brand approach of how do you help make your donor and your supporter kind of the main character of the story. And so often I've been on boards. When I was at Coca-Cola, I was on boards for nonprofits. I've done consulting for nonprofits, and oftentimes they're me monsters. And it's me. Even when they write thank you letters to donors, if you were to do an audit and see how many times they say us versus you, lots of nonprofits make it about them. Well, listen, Destiny Rescue can't do what we do without donors and supporters and volunteers. And so if we're not willing to make them a part of the brand, and so we started a campaign called I Rescue, where we're trying to gather stories. And we have 5- and 6-year-old kids who've done lemonade stands to raise funds to rescue kids. And they get to say, this is how I rescue. I don't, these kids aren't going in undercover and posing as a creep. They get to rescue, even at young age, churches, businesses, individuals. And so it's incorporating them into the brand that you are the rescuer. And you can help rescue the next one that's waiting. And so for us, it's how do we continue to bring them in so that they can feel the impact, that they can see how their money's used, how their time and effort goes to actually rescue kids. We've rescued over 5,000 individuals. Now, some of them are adults. Our focus is kids. In pursuit of those kids, we often find adults who are also being trafficked. But again, how can we celebrate the success with the people who actually make it possible? And so again, it's how can we continue to be a you brand where we're celebrating you and what you do versus this constant we are doing this.
Love that. I mean, you're showing your expertise here. I think that those topics tie together so nicely as you've defined your culture and what your company, your organization stands for as a brand. You can then apply that, right? It's a very clear application of that you can show people. We don't talk about I or me. We talk about you become a you brand. Like you said, I love that. I think that's so great. As we kind of wrap up here, I mean, this has been just awesome. I've loved this conversation. It's gone longer than we normally do for our episodes, but I'm okay with that because this is just such a great conversation, You get me going.
I can talk for hours. So
me too. That's okay. I love it. So as we wrap this up though, I mean, I want to ask you just about one other thing, and you kind of hinted at this, but the role of ethical storytelling. You and I were talking before we jumped on this call a little bit about that term, ethical storytelling, right? So could you explain what you mean by ethical storytelling and talk to us a little bit more about what role that plays in Destiny Rescue's brand?
Yeah, listen, this is so important for any organization who is a nonprofit and is telling the stories of their beneficiaries. Because again, we want to be seen as hopefully inspiring and not manipulating. We want to honor the victims. You know, when we rescue a girl, she goes from being a victim to a survivor. We want to highlight the brave choice she potentially made by saying yes to her offer of freedom, because oftentimes a teenage girl, we don't just take her from a brothel. Yeah. We have to propose freedom to her, and she has to say yes. If not, we become kidnappers and traffickers. So it's so important how we tell their story to audiences. And I believe we have a responsibility as an organization to educate the public to the realities of human trafficking, child sex trafficking. So I'm sure you've seen the movie Taken. A lot of people have, right? Liam Neeson, his daughter's taken at the airport. He jumps on a plane, flies over there, and causes all kinds of havoc, kicking people's butts to rescue his daughter. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. Yes, abduction does happen, and we've rescued a number, but so often it's poverty and desperation that's led a family member to exploit and sell their own child. We recently rescued a 2.5-year-old boy who was being exploited and forced to do horrific sex acts on a live stream by his stepfather and with his stepfather. What we want to do is be real in how this happens, that it's not always poor people who are trafficked. It can affect everybody. It doesn't matter what your race is or what your age is. You can fall victim to this. Mm-hmm. It's mental manipulation and mental bondage. And so as an organization, we have a responsibility to tell stories as accurately as possible and not over sensationalize and make it sound more heroic than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Just because we think that's what a donor wants to hear.
Yeah.
That to me is not honoring. You know what we tell our team, if I was standing in front of Lucid Press sharing Destiny Rescue to your organization, the thing we've told our team is, if the girl was sitting in the front row as you told her story, would she be embarrassed or would she be encouraged by how you told her story? And that is our goal. Mm-hmm. And to me, anyone who is helping people and who has beneficiaries as they tell stories, it shouldn't be from the angle of let's embellish or tell it in a way that makes it so much more sad so that we can get people's money, but tell it in a way that is honoring and that is accurate and transparent and true, in the hopes that it inspires people versus the bottom line, which is what we're trying to accomplish as fundraisers, and as nonprofits. So
excellent. I love the advice. I think these are amazing tips, and this has been such a great conversation, Aaron. I really, really appreciate it. As we wrap up here today, how would you leave our listeners? What tips or steps would you leave with them? And not everyone's in the same situation, type of organization. What an awesome mission! So whether it's other nonprofits or for-profit companies, how would you kind of sum up your ideas of what we talked about into what someone could take away and apply, no matter what type of organization they're in?
I think you got to do the hard work to really understand your brand. Who are you? And maybe not just who you think you are, but who do your constituents, your customers, your donors, what's the word on the street? You know,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes our own impressions of ourselves do not line up with how other people would describe us. And so I think it takes effort, you know, to really get to know who are we,
Mm-hmm.
and then who do we want to be?
Yeah.
And if the who are we and the who we want to be aren't the same, then we need to figure out how we get there. But we can't, as leaders, we can't do it by, I'm going to control everything.
Yeah.
It's about building a culture that empowers people to be creative, that allows people to share ideas, that allows people to make mistakes, and be there to encourage and guide. And obviously at the end of the day, you have to protect your brands. At times I have to be the balloon popper and tell people, no, we're not doing that thing.
Yeah.
But if I'm not empowering our people to use their own creativity and to use their own ideas, and it's all mine, we're going to fail, because I don't have all the answers. And so, anyway, we have a long way to go as an organization. You know, we are on a mission we hope to see the sexual exploitation of children end in our lifetime. And we plan to play a leading role in that. And in order to do that, we're going to have to get even better at telling the story and building a brand that people say, wow, I like how they operate. Mm-hmm. They're real, they're transparent. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Excellent tips. That makes so much sense. So, Aaron, this has been just awesome today. I really appreciate you joining and sharing some of your thoughts. As we leave here today, what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you? And also, if they want to learn more about Destiny Rescue and get involved in the cause there, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so to learn, you can go to our website, destinyrescue.org, and soon we're going to be launching a brand new website, which
congratulations.
Is more of a you focus instead of a me focus. So great. We're moving in the right direction. But destinyrescue.org to learn more about our organization. If people want to connect with me, you know, they can reach me via email, aaron.brown, as in the color, at destinyrescue.org. I'm also on LinkedIn, active on Twitter, at AAR Brown. Love connecting with people, especially in this space of marketing and nonprofits, you know, being able to bounce ideas off of each other, because no one has all the answers. And in this season that we're in right now, it's even more challenging. So.
Excellent. Thank you again so much, Aaron, and wish you the best with the awesome cause that you're working on there at Destiny Rescue. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.